So this is actually part two, and part one was in the other video. We're getting to the bottom region of the left side of our perfect bracket. As I mentioned before at the end, this is Kevin after recording, not Kevin in the video. That's why you don't see my face on here. So recording went super long. We spent a lot of time on the bracket, as we should, as it is the quest for the perfect bracket. So we're dividing up all these episodes into 30, 40-minute segments. So it's not 2 hour-and-a-half podcasts because we didn't feel that was fair to y'all because we're not huge fans of that. So let us know what you think, and I'll talk to you at the end of this video. And enjoy the video. But let's just get right into it. North Carolina versus the first four between Howard and between the winner of
Howard and Widener.
who is it? Howard and
Widener.
Oh, Howard and Widener. Okay. But do we need to spend much time on this?
No, I think Widener probably beats Howard, but North Carolina is extremely good, and I don't think they're going to have any trouble beating either of those teams in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean this should be a cakewalk. North Carolina is a really good team. They they're 5 deep, 6 deep, but these five are good. So I was nah, Jesus, my mind's everywhere. North Carolina is going to win this.
All right, now we got Mississippi State versus Michigan State.
Jake?
Okay, yeah, I can do this one. If you guys have watched this channel, you know how Austin and I feel about the Big Ten. It shouldn't be a surprise when we decide that Mississippi State is gonna win this game, because they're coming off of a huge win, huge win against what was that? Tennessee.
Yep.
Tennessee, um, arguably one of the best teams in the nation by most. They're hot. Tolu Smith is good on the interior. Josh Hubbard is a phenomenal freshman. Uh, and Michigan State kind of stinks. Michigan State, they're Tom Izzo. They got Tom Izzo, and the committee was going to put Michigan State in the tournament because of Tom Izzo, but they didn't deserve to be here. Me and Austin agree on this. There are teams that deserve to be here more and higher than Michigan State. But they're here, and they're who knows? They might shock everyone again and go to the Sweet 16 and beating a 1 seed. Who knows? But we don't think that's going to happen because this is a different team. They're not great offensively and defensively down the board. They're inconsistent. They don't win big games, and Mississippi State's on a run right now. So I have Mississippi State's probably going to win this game.
Tom Izzo's a great coach, but he can only carry you so far. It's Mississippi State.
All right, now we go to St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. Who wants to go first?
I can go first on this one. St. Mary's just won their conference tournament, being extremely impressive. They have one of the best defenses in the country. They're fourth in defensive rating while also having the 21st best offense in the country. They don't turn over the ball that much while they are, like I said, great on defense, only allowing 58.7 points per game. Look, Grand Canyon's a good team, but I'm just not necessarily impressed by what I've seen from them when I watched them play. I'm going to go St. Mary's.
I agree with Austin here. I was big on St. Mary's. I've been big on St. Mary's for about a month now, and they rebound very well. They are top 25 in the nation in rebounds per game, as well as first in rebound margin, meaning they out rebound their team, their opponents by a lot, as well as they give up the second least amount of points per game in the entire country. And so, while Grand Canyon is a fun team to like, they're not conditioned to play a defense like St. Mary's. Who knows? We could be wrong. St. Mary's could come out and just completely suck because teams can do that sometimes. But they brought everyone back from last year. Everyone. Mahaney, they brought back their big guy. Oh, who's their big guy? They brought back freaking Saxon, and they brought back Marshallonis, and they brought back They brought back everybody, and including Alex Dukas. Did they bring him back? Was he there before? Do you know? I think he's been there for 5 years. So they brought back their entire team. Uh, so St. Mary's wins this game. I think. In a landslide.
All right, y'all are agreeing a lot. So, yeah, I feel like St. Mary's too. But now we go to Alabama versus Charleston.
This one was tough for me. They are Alabama's such a confusing team because they average the most points per game for any team, almost 91 a game. But they also allow basically the most points per game of any team. It's a pace thing. If any team could slow them down, I think they will lose. Can Charleston do that? I I don't think so. Charleston also averages a lot of points. I think the real way to beat a team like Alabama is to slow them down. I don't think they're a great team. I think that they have a very low ceiling, but I think Alabama will beat Charleston.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Austin. Alabama, and I don't like Alabama. Like they're not good defensively. I don't like him at all. But Charleston is effectively the same exact team, but smaller. Like they're really, really good offensively, but not great at all defensively. They
Charleston
all
is
do
the
the same
mid-major
things
version.
well.
They're the mid-major version of
Yeah,
Alabama.
yeah, and Bama's just got Mark Sears, and so like they don't have a dominant big man, and they're not great on defense, and they live and die by the three. But so does Charleston, and so uh, and Bama's gonna win this, and they got lucky that this was their 13 seed matchup. So props to Bama for getting lucky. We all need to
N-
sometime.
Now we go to number 6 Clemson versus number 11 New Mexico. I feel this is going to be another agreement between both of you.
So
I'll let Jake
I am
talk.
gonna start.
He knows my choice,
Yeah,
so I won't even say
yeah.
it.
So this is like Austin knows, and Kevin, you might know. I've been plugging New Mexico State since beginning of January. I saw
You
this
you
team.
sent a message in the group chat.
I sent a message in the group chat recently. Saturday night. I said go Lobos because I've been following New Mexico and Iowa State to the two teams that I've been following the most this season, and Oregon. And New Mexico, I never doubted for a second, and Austin can attest, I never doubted for a second that they were going to make the tournament. I never doubted their personnel. I never doubted their team. I never doubted their drive. I had belief that they were going to make some noise, and they needed in a situation recently in the Mountain West tournament. They were in the first four out. They needed to win games. They had to. There was no other option. They beat Air Force. They beat Boise State. They beat Colorado State. And they go on to beat San Diego State in the Mountain West tournament. 4 games back to back to back to back. And they didn't let up. And they even beat San Diego State without their best scorer because their best scorer was effectively out of the game. He was in the game, but he had the flu and he didn't do anything. And so his name is Donovan Dent, by the way. You should look him up. Um, New Mexico has one of the best guards in the nation in Jalen House and one of the best defensive guards in the nation. He's like top 10 in steals per game. They have 2 interior big men who rebound the ball phenomenally. And JT Toppin is a freshman who leads the entire Mountain West in blocks per game. And so I don't know why it took so long for people to start realizing how good New Mexico is. And while Clemson had a really good start to the season, and they got PJ Hall, who's a good player, I think New Mexico effectively runs them out of the water. Um, I've been following this team for a while now, and they're almost like my team, like I'm a part of them, kind of like I was with UConn last year. And New Mexico is just, I think they're poised for a run, and I think they completely obliterate Clemson.
I have nothing to add.
Austin, you all right? So we got New Mexico, and then we got Baylor versus the toothpaste college Colgate. I'm a big fan of Baylor, so I'll defer to what y'all think. But
Colgate is not that great. They're a worse 3-point shooting team than they have been previously, and they're facing a top 10 3-point percentage team in the nation. A team that shoots basically 39% from 3 while averaging 81 points per game. I'm concerned about the usefulness of Baylor. team that has two starters that are freshmen, but Scott Drew is going to just by himself run Colgate out of the arena.
Yeah, Baylor Baylor's going to win this game. Baylor has there was a time recently within the past month or like about a month ago where Austin and I were not very high on Baylor. Their defense was very lackluster and they seemed to be very inconsistent. But over the past 3 or so weeks, they started picking it up. They played really, really close and went to overtime with Houston. They were really close with Iowa State. They've played very, very well and played very, very close games, and they did all that without Langston Love, one of their primary scorers. Um, Now, I thought Baylor, and Kevin and I agreed that Baylor was going to win the Big 12 tournament. Um, and while I look back on that, and I look back on that, and I don't think it was crazy. I mean, Baylor was hot. They were steaming. They were connecting as a team. They were communicating effectively. And Scott Drew is a phenomenal head coach. That's not news anymore. And so, and Colgate kind of sucks at offense. They kind of stink. And so, while they have a really good defense, Baylor has one of the best offenses in the nation, and they shoot and hit at least 40% of their threes. And so I think Baylor wins this one. Maybe it could be a tight matchup. We don't know, but I think Baylor wins this one.
Okay, so we all agree on Baylor. Now we go to Dayton versus Nevada.
This is tough. I'll let Jake go.
Um, Weirdly, okay. So Dayton, right? Dayton is interesting because they have Daron Holmes. Now, Daron Holmes could single-handedly win you a basketball game. They're really good on defense, and I believe Dayton is third in the nation in three-point percentage. That's very good. That's actually outstanding, and they don't foul a lot. They're very poised on defense. Nevada, uh, Nevada's pretty good too. They got Jared Lucas. Um, they have another guy, Jared Lucas. If you guys don't remember, was part of the Oregon State Elite Eight run back in 2021, a major part of it. Um, Nevada is weirdly sneaky. Um, they got guys like Blackshear. They got Keenan Blackshear, and they got Nick Davidson. And they shoot very well from three and from the field. Um, their interior defense has a little bit of work to do, which is going to be a problem because Daron Holmes is an interior scorer. So this is a tough matchup to predict. But we like the Mountain West defense. We like the Mountain West in general. But I think this might be one of those games where Daron Holmes might single-handedly win Dayton a basketball game. And so as of right now, and this is subject to change, I might have to go with Dayton.
This matchup's so close. Nevada has the height. They have KJ Himes, who started 30 of 31 games that he has played in. He's 6'10". The problem is they only play him around half the game. What are you going to do during that other half where Daron Holmes plays a very, very large majority of the game and is so dominant and can shoot? This is so close. I do think Nevada, up and down the board, has a deeper team, has a more impressive season thus far. And while Dayton technically is a higher seeded team, I think Nevada's proven more. It's sometimes in March, the better player just gets you a win. And while Jared Lucas is very, very good, and like Jake said, this probably won't be who I eventually have winning come Thursday, but at this moment, I'm going to go Dayton.
All right. Dayton, now Arizona versus Long Beach State.
Sorry, that's how I'm reacting to the idea of Arizona. Um, Now Arizona is a 2 seed. That was inevitable. Long Beach State is kind of good. So if there's going to be any 2-15 upset, it might be this one. Um, Now, I don't think Arizona is going to let that happen again. They lost to Princeton last year in the first round as a 2 seed. Long Beach State is kind of good coming off their conference tournament win. But Arizona now has Caleb Love, who can get really, really hot, but he can also get really, really cold. And depending on what happens that day with Caleb Love is going to determine the outcome of this game. But they also have Pele Larson and Keyshawn Johnson and Omar Ballo. They have a solid squad. So I think Arizona wins this game. I don't think they. I don't think they go out in the first round again, but I wouldn't put it past them to do so. Um, so I don't know. This one, go ahead, Austin. What do you think about Arizona?
I've never been fully in love with this Arizona team, but they have so many impressive players. It can't happen twice, right? Like I couldn't imagine it. I feel like that would be result to just closing the college or something. Like you can't be a 2 seed back to back years and end up losing to a 15 seed. That's unheard of and honestly unacceptable. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Arizona wins this game.
And for the record, Arizona has a lot of bad conference losses. Oregon State, Stanford, USC. They can they can screw the pooch sometimes. And they kind of live and die with Caleb Love. They kind of love Caleb Love uh, offensively, and if he's not on, they I don't think they know what to do. Um, but with a matchup like this, I think they win. Um, so they make it out of the first round this year. Happy for Arizona fans around the world.
All right, so now Arizona versus Dayton. Who wins?
I'm going to go Dayton. I just
Okay.
I haven't loved Arizona all year, but they also play down to their competition. And Dayton isn't that far down, but they have a guy again averaging 20 and 8 with 2 blocks. They have two other capable scorers who average basically 11 points per game or more. One of those guys is off the bench. They have 6 guys that they play basically 30 minutes a night. And while it's not extremely deep, I just don't trust Arizona not to shoot themselves in the foot like they've done many times before. And with Dayton being such a good defensive team, I could see Arizona struggling against a team with a great center and end up losing in the second round.
um, I've never liked Dayton this year. For the record, um, I don't think I've never been a big fan of theirs. They were not great in conference play. They were third in their conference and lost in the semifinals, I believe. In the
Um,
A10. Now the A10 was a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But they were third. Loyola was second, and
Richmond was first.
I don't even remember who was first. Um,
Richmond.
Richmond was first, and so Dayton had the tendency to lose bad games, but so did Arizona. And Omar Ballo, while he's a name, people know his name. He's not a phenomenal interior defensive presence. You know who's a phenomenal interior offensive presence? It's Dayron Holmes. Um, and so, and defensively, Dayron Holmes is insane on the interior. And they shoot 40% from three as a team. And so this is kind of tough. And I'm not gonna fault Dayton too much for losing to Duquesne because they lost to Duquesne in their semi conference semifinal or quarterfinal. I don't remember. And Duquesne was the hot team, and they're now in the tournament as an 11 seed. And so they were kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. Um, but and they started to come back down to earth a little bit. And Dayron Holmes, they kind of live and die by him. Um, I have to go Arizona. Um, I don't like Arizona, but I dislike Dayton a little more because I feel like they've kind of hit a skid recently. And Arizona they've hit a skid too, but they have the personnel, and I think Caleb Love is going to be good for the
So
first.
you're going to Arizona.
I'm going with Arizona.
Awesome.
It's all up to you, Kevin.
What'd you pick?
I picked Dayton.
Oh, you picked Dayton? You know, I kind of feel Dayton because you don't like Arizona. I don't like Arizona, and I just don't feel they go far. So let's get a little mad. Y'all all bring up good points, so I'm going Dayton.
Okay.
That's not crazy. I mean, Dayron Holmes is so good, but I just question their consistency right now. But I also question Arizona's consistency, but I think up and down the board, Arizona has a better team. Um, and so I just think Arizona can't suck again and again. And so I think they make it to the Sweet 16.
Well, if you want to talk crazy, we'll get to Baylor versus New Mexico. I don't think y'all will like my pick.
Well, Kevin, I don't think it matters because Baylor is young, like we said. They've gone through a rough patch earlier this year. And Jake, I want you to say what was the quote that Jalen House said after winning the Mountain West Championship?
Jalen House. Jalen House said, I don't remember verbatim, but he said pretty much along the lines of and I was watching the game with my friend Jack, and at the end of the game I was so happy because the team I believed in won. And they interviewed Jalen House at the end of the game, and he goes, they asked him, I don't remember the question verbatim, but pretty much how are you guys able to do this? How are you guys able to rally and essentially force yourself into the NCAA tournament? And he goes, I'm pretty sure he was like, "We not going home." And they asked him how they were able to do it, and he said, "We want it more." And I looked at my friend, and I looked at him and goes, I completely believe that is the reason they won. Like, there's something about this New Mexico team. They play with a chip on their shoulder all the time. And the fact that they were an 11 seed after winning their conference tournament against Boise State, they beat Boise State, they beat Colorado State and San Diego State. San Diego State, a team that went to the championship last year, and they're an 11 seed. Lenardi had them at the 9, or in other brackets had them at an 8, and the committee decided to put them at an 11. And so now I think they're kind of angry again. I think they're going to want it more. I think they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder, and they have experience. They have guys who have played basketball for a while now, and they have phenomenal scorers. And I don't know it. And Donovan Dent's going to be healthy because he's going to get over his flu in the span of 5 days. And so I think New Mexico wins this game again. They want it more, and it's very evident by the way they play defense and the hustle plays that they make, especially on the glass and just the way that they rotate and switch on defense. It's truly beautiful basketball to watch, which is why I love them so much.
That means, unfortunately,
All right.
Kevin, that Jake and I both take New Mexico.
You know, I knew it was a long shot, and I do like New Mexico. It's just I like Baylor and I like Scott Drew, so I think I could see Scott Drew helping his team get
Oh,
over the hump. But you
100%.
do bring up good points.
Baylor's not a bad team.
Yeah,
We just
Poor
so
Baylor. I
yeah.
honestly I feel awful for Baylor that they were put in this situation because New Mexico's won the hot hand, won a chip on their shoulder, won just really freaking good. And I feel bad for Baylor not being able to be in like the South region or the Midwest. So it's we picked New Mexico because uh, they're actually the most slept on team in the nation this year.
Well, yeah, we'll see about that. Now let's go St. Mary's versus Alabama. What's the pick?
Alabama's not a team built for March. St. Mary's, like I said before, the way to beat Alabama is to slow them down. St. Mary's does that, is efficient, is hot, has played well against good teams. I have St. Mary's winning this.
Yeah, I have St. Mary's kind of dominating this game. Alabama, St. Mary's is a phenomenal defense. Phenomenal defense. Like we mentioned earlier, second in the nation in points given up per game at like 57. They prevent the Rock from scoring, and Bama is really good at scoring, but they're really bad on defense. And St. Mary's has 5 or 6 guys who are pretty solid at scoring. So I think St. Mary's makes a solid run to the Sweet 16 and wins this game.
All right, now we go to North Carolina versus Mississippi State. What's it going to be?
This is close for me. Mississippi State, I don't love them, but they have won really big games. I've been impressed by their way to be feisty and win games against tough opponents in the SEC. But can you really stop RJ Davis? And can you slow him down along with Cormac Ryan and all these other guys? I think no. I think UNC wins this game. I think it may be close. It may be a 4-point game, but in the end, I think UNC ends up winning it.
I agree. North Carolina is a good basketball team. They're the number one seed for a reason. Armando Bacot, while he's not the Armando Bacot we once knew, he's still a phenomenal interior presence, both offensively, defensively, and on the boards, on the glass. But right now, I don't know if you guys watched the ACC championship. Cormac Ryan is killing it, and North Carolina is hard to beat. Really hard to beat when Cormac Ryan is hot. Harrison Ingram, who is normally one of their better scorers, has taken a step back because Cormac Ryan is he's hitting every shot. And when Cormac Ryan is hot, he looks like Steph Curry on the court. He can hit any three. He can move around. He plays really good defense. It's really, really weird how he's able to turn it on, like turn the switch on like that. And not to mention, RJ Davis might be the best guard in the nation. He averages 21 points a game and hits 40% of his threes. It's hard to stop him. And Mississippi State, I've never liked them very much this year. Mississippi State is, while they're hot right now, I think their road ends here because North Carolina, while they lost to NC State, everyone lost to NC State. NC State is the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the nation right now. And so I have North Carolina moving on.
All right. Now we go to North Carolina versus St. Mary's.
These are two teams that both kind of live and die by their starting five. Both teams, like North Carolina, has Davis, Bacot, Ingram, Ryan, and Elliott Cadeau. Other than that, they have Seth Trimble and Jalen Washington, who don't really get involved offensively. And they're all right defensively. But they don't really have a lot to do outside of their five. St. Mary's, Mahaney, Marshallonis, Saxon, Jefferson, and Dukas. Other than that, they don't have many other scores. So these are two 5-on-5 games. This is a 5-on-5 game. This doesn't mean that some of their backup guys can't score, but this is the trend that they have shown throughout the year. St. Mary's, like I'm going to reiterate, is one of the best defensive teams in the nation. North Carolina is a far superior offensive team. I think North Carolina wins this because they are a hot hand. Not because they won their conference tournament, but because they're winning games, like, and they're winning games by a lot. Other than that NC State game, UNC's hot right now, as well as some of their players, and I think it'll be tough for them to stop RJ Davis. And so I think North Carolina wins this.
This is so.
Austin.
This is tough for me. St. Mary's, I do really like. They've had their fair share of tough games, and both of these teams, I don't love their conferences that they came from. They both have good teams in their conference, like Gonzaga with St. Mary's or Duke and NC State and some other teams in the ACC. But I don't love it either way. This is really, really close. I'm going to agree with Jake and go UNC.
All right, and then now we go New Mexico versus Dayton. Same pick, New Mexico.
That's the plan.
The Lobos are going to continue to howl, man. The Lobos
right.
are going to continue to howl.
Now the final pick of this video, as we are closing, or we're already over an hour for part one, as we are on the left side of the bracket, North Carolina versus New Mexico. What's the pick?
My Lobos are going to win this game. New Mexico, as the 11 seed, they are incredibly underseeded, so don't let the seedings fool you, viewers at home. New Mexico, if you were going to rank them and seed them based on best team and stats, New Mexico would be a top 4 or 5 seed. And so don't let the seedings fool you. This 11 seed is, I think they're poised to make a run to the Final Four. And I almost don't doubt it because I'm so confident in this team. The same way I was confident about UConn last year. And so New Mexico is, I'm going to live and die by them. Just like Arizona lives and die by Caleb Love. I'm going to live and die by the Lobos.
It's tough. They are a deep team. They play 8. I am a little bit concerned about the 3-point shooting with New Mexico. They shoot 33.4% from 3 this year. UNC is, they're good, but they only play 5 guys, kind of 6 with Seth Trimble off the bench. It's tough. It's tough.
It's weird. Austin, I'll let you think on it for a sec. Yes, New Mexico is not phenomenal from 3. But we saw them against San Diego State. Jalen House hit 3 straight threes, and Jamal Mashburn hit threes. And then the game before, Jamarl, his name's Jamarl, which was funny. Jamarl, I forgot his last name. It was Jamarl Baker, I think. Jamarl Baker. He hit a couple threes, crucial threes against Colorado State. And so they can hit threes, but they also don't need to hit threes. They win without the 3. And if you don't remember last year, San Diego State shot at a 33-34% clip from 3, and they made the Final Four because they were a phenomenal defensive team and could score in other ways. And that's the way that the New Mexico Lobos are this year. And so and UNC is a phenomenal offensive team, but they haven't faced a high intensity defense like the Lobos. And so I think the 2 interior guys are going to be too tough for Baycott to handle. And I think Jalen House is going to be a very difficult guard for RJ Davis to get around. And Cadeau is a freshman, and freshmen aren't necessarily usually built for March. And so that's why I'm going to once again sell you on the New Mexico Lobos.
Can they stop RJ Davis?
Are you asking me?
Sure.
Jalen House. I don't know if you guys watch. They're gonna have Jalen House on RJ Davis. And Jalen House is one of the best on-ball defensive guards in the nation. If you watch him play, you can see how high intensity his defense is. He's a little chaotic. Austin and I were talking about this. He's a little bit chaotic on the offensive side of the ball sometimes, but usually he's really, really good at reining it in and going soft off the glass and being smart on defense. And if you watch a play from Jalen House at the very first play of the game and watch a play from the very last play of the game, not knowing when those two plays were in the span of the game, you won't know when they were because he exudes the same amount of energy throughout the entire game. He is incredible. I don't know how he has the energy to handle a full 40 minutes playing 35 minutes or so, especially when you're number one guard in the conference tournament. your number one guard is out for the conference championship. And so, our number one offensive guard, Donovan Dent. And so, Jalen House is just, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league. He's top 10 in steals in the nation, and steals is only half of defense. The other half is the way you handle on ball situations and the way you handle switches and screens. And so, and he's one of the masters at it. And so that's why I have New Mexico moving on.
I love all the talk, Jake. It's really hard for me to buy in. I'm gonna go UNC, and Kevin, I'm very interested to see how you have been persuaded or not persuaded by Jake. Your
I
pick determines his happiness.
yeah, well, this is no. I'm not picking based on his happiness. This is my own opinion. I'm gonna go New Mexico because I don't trust North Carolina and defense, as y'all have talked about with New Mexico. That's what we've heard as we've done several of these videos. So I'm feeling New Mexico. So I'm picking them. So I'm going to give the tiebreaker. Jake is happy for the end of this episode. If you want to know what happens on the right side of the bracket, make sure you check it out. Also, I forgot to mention the link is in the description for our bracket group. Winner gets a liner. You get 2 entries. Password is Write Your Story, capital W, capital R, capital Y, capital S. So write your story. It's been on our trailers. Hopefully you've been following. But that's all we got, and we will see you in just a few moments. Thank you for listening. All right, y'all, thank you so much for listening to the real part 2. Don't listen to what other Kevin said in the video. Make sure to check out part 3 and 4 that are coming out in just a few moments. It will be really quick time, so don't forget to compete against our bracket. We're really excited to beat y'all. And if you somehow get to beat us, you get to brag about it in the liner that you earn. But thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to you checking out the real part 3. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.